and I'm here with you, ready to go when you are.
Okay, well, please proceed with your presentation of the proposed 2020 budget.
Yes, first I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and the rest of the council members for being here as a part of this presentation as a co-equal branch of government, working together for our community and the rest of our constituents. Also, I would like to note that this is also being broadcast live on Facebook at this current time. If residents want to chime in with comments or concerns and just view this presentation. This is the roadmap for Flint. You know, our new budget format is much easier and much improved and much easier to understand. The budget highlights of revenues and expenditures for the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1, 2021, and it goes through June 30th, 2022. Today, I will offer highlights of the proposed budget while also addressing long-term systemic financial issues in the city of Flint. These are problems that go back for decades, and once and for all, with a transparent way in which we are going to deliver this budget. We have issues in front of us, but we also have solutions. And the solutions that we're going to be offering requires a level of partnership and working together with the co-equal branch of government, as well as residents. These are some challenging times, but we're much more than a victim. We are victors. And so with that, I will move toward the presentation of our 2022 budget, proposed budget. Remember last year when we talked about these issues with council in our last budget projections. At that time in FY 2022, we projected a budget deficit of $12 million coming into this year. We're able to fill the gap through blessings and prayers and very hard work. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our team, our financial team. They have done a fantastic job. All of our department heads working tirelessly to make sure that we can fill the gap and close the gap for residents. In that budget presentation then, we had a $12 million projected deficit for 2022. We filled the gap, but our decade-old problems, they still remain. We have 16 budgeted funds in the city of Flint. We have our general fund, our debt service funds, our capital project funds, our enterprise funds. We also have sewer and water, and also we have our special revenue funds. And as you look at the presentation, it lists all of those special revenue funds. I can go through the listing just to engage some of those who may not have the presentation in front of them. You got the major street fund, the local street fund, the public street safety fund, the neighborhood policing fund, parks and recreation fund, street light fund, rubbish collection fund, drug enforcement fund, the EDA revolving fund, the building inspection fund, and the Oak Business Center fund. And in our enterprise funds, we have sewer and water. And these are some of the funds that we have, 16 funded items, budgeted funded items in this general fund budget. The highlights of this budget, and this is through no small task. When I talk about closing the gap of a $12 million projected deficit, it was no small task to be able to deliver this to the state of Michigan, to you, the city council, and also to the residents of the city of Flint. This is a balanced budget. This budget protects police and fire staffing levels, no layoffs. This budget invests in our city ombudsman charter mandated office. This budget invests in our city clerk's office. This budget invests in our fight on blight. And also, this budget invests in our Civil Service Commission, which is also a charter mandated position that has been dormant for 6 years now. So it was no small task to close the gap, fulfill the obligations of our charter, and also maintain all staffing levels in our first responder area. And so I want to thank God for those ways that we found these dollars to be able to fill that gap. And we're going to move forward, but we have to do so together. Revenue assumptions. These are assumptions that we've been moving through what I call the crisis of intersection. We have a level of civil unrest in our country. We have an ongoing water crisis in our community. And also we are fighting back against this pandemic, COVID-19, this deadly virus. And so that made things a little more difficult to try to get these pieces to line up with our partners from our federal government as well as our state government to be able to try to figure out how to protect lives and not have a further shortfall. Property tax revenue projected to be up 2%. Income tax revenue projected to be 6% down. Revenue sharing projected to be 0.7% down. But through the high-minded legislation in the state of Lansing, well, in the city of Lansing, also here in the state of Michigan, the state has funded $2.5 million to help cover the shortfalls in some of those areas that's been projected down, a state grant fund to help us offset those losses in our tax income. Now, this is a problem that has plagued this community for decades. Transfers from our enterprise fund. This budget ends that. We no longer will raid the water and sewer fund, the enterprise fund, for transfers to supplement the shortfalls in our general fund operation. We no longer do that. This has been problematic for more than a decade and a half, that raiding of our water and sewer fund to pay for the cost of utility for water and sewer was being raided to supplement our general fund allocations. And we have stopped that practice, and we will not do that moving forward. And that practice has stopped in this fiscal year and moving forward. But we definitely have to have a reality check on where we are. We definitely need to make sure that we know where we're going and we have a plan of recovery moving our community forward, doing all things correct and in order. This budget reflects that. Meeting our pension obligations. That has been a problem for us. In the FY22 budget, we pay what is needed, that needs to be paid to protect the fiscal health and long-term stability of our Flint pension system. We're now paying into our Flint pension system at the levels required. This budget puts Flint into compliance with our pension contributions requirements mandated by the state. We need to recognize these legacy costs. These legacy costs has been problematic, and they continue to drain our general fund. Now here in this presentation, if you have this in front of you, our pension costs, this is a chart depicting what our pension cost has been and what it is and what is to be projected. In FY18, our pension obligations were $21 million. In FY19, our pension obligation was $22 million. In FY20, our pension obligations was also $22 million. Now we're into FY21. Our pension cost has ballooned to $32 million, an increase of $10 million. And that increase will continue to grow next year to $33 million. And in FY 2023, it balloons again to $39 million. Our legacy costs. And these are the things that the impending danger, if we don't do something and react now, if we don't come together and really focus our minds, our hearts toward this problem that's plaguing many communities throughout the state of Michigan, and even communities like Detroit, and we saw what happened there, and other communities have these long-term pension obligations that they were trying to offset. But we are making plans and preparations now with all like thinkers to act in a triage fashion to make sure that we can continue to grow our community and make sure that we reduce no services for residents inside the city of Flint. And this budget does just that. Our pension liabilities reaches a $546 million. $546 million is our obligation. Our pension assets are only at $158 million. And that leaves us with a pension system that is only currently now 29% funded. We have obligations to those that have committed their lives to working for the city and that now they're retired and expecting their pension payments. But we have these liabilities that's still pending with very little asset left in the fund. Reality, our pension system is seriously underfunded. We lost more than $100 million in 7 years. That's a loss in our pension system. And 7 years, and the emergency managers transferred to MERS system, that is the Municipal Employee Retirement System. The city of Flint has one active employee to every 6 retirees. So we have one person putting in, and it's divided up into a category for 6 retirees. And so we have to be able to figure out a way to make sure that we can continue to move our communities forward, even though we have lost more than $100 million in our pension system when it was moved from FERS, which was a Flint control system, over to the Municipal Employee Retirement System, which is MERS. The road closes, and this is where they boxed out elected officials, much like city council, previous administrations, the emergency managers, under the cloak of coming into communities like Flint, Detroit, Pontiac, Highland Park, and Flint, saying that they were going to help us with the problem of our unfunded liabilities to make sure that we had enough revenue to continue to provide services for residents. They blocked out the elected officials, council included. And so what do we do next? How do we move forward? The Flint Emergency Manager problem saga started back in 2002, moving all the way through a succession of emergency managers, some repeated services, and then to a RTAP, completing their service in 2018. Through this journey, they never really took a look at how to really fix the problems inside the city of Flint. What they did was mask the problems that we had and that we currently have now. They pushed the can down the road. The time is now to work toward a true financial stability. Hard decisions, good decisions need to be made for the betterment of our community. We will work with our partners to create a long-term solution to these legacy costs. And we need to do that now. No longer can we afford to push the can down the road. No longer will we raid our enterprise funds to subsidize the general fund activity to mask over what the real problems are in our community. The key takeaways from this in our FY22 budget, this is a balanced budget. I give credit to our staff for our operational audits. I give credit to the staffing and the people who have worked here in the city of Flint over the past year through these very difficult times. I give credit to council members, though you've been kept blind in many aspects, but now you're on the horizon working very tirelessly to make sure that we can continue to provide services for our residents. This budget protects residents and our staffing levels. No layoffs in police and fire. Investment in our city services. We continue to fund our pension systems as it requires, taking care of our obligation to those retirees. And we're stopping the raiding of our water and sewer fund. This is nothing less than a blessing that we've been able to do this through our operational audits, as well as our financial audits, to stop the hemorrhaging now. But we definitely have to work together to continue to face and champion for our residents a true plan to overcome the long-term legacy issues that we currently have. And we have already begun that work here. But moreover, we have to do this by working together. We cannot do this warring with one another. We definitely need to do this and place the will, the concerns of the public in front. That's our job, that's our role, that's our responsibility, and God would have it done no other way beyond working together. So with that, next slide, please. The next steps, per the Flint City Charter, Section 7-101A5, no earlier than 10 business days after this presentation of the proposed budget, and no later than 20 business days of the presentation of the proposed budget, the mayor and the city council shall hold public hearings to receive the input on this proposed budget from the public. I encourage that. I encourage us working together. Tomorrow, my staff will start reaching out to each one of the council individuals to schedule meetings in my office to go through this budget with my team to look at ways that we can improve upon it and ways that we can move forward, trying to tackle the big problem of our legacy issues inside the city of Flint. This will be done in partnership. You have my commitment on that. We will work together. The presentation and the full budget document with all the numbers is now being forwarded to council members and also being published on our website for the public to be able to digest and look at these real numbers. This is nothing less than a marvelous budget for what we have to work with. A budget that proposes no layoffs to public safety, a budget that proposes investments in our infrastructure and also our departments. This budget is a blessing, and we have to continue to champion these things for our residents. Prayer, planning, and partnership are the three models that we have here inside the City Hall. Is prevailed thus far through the very difficult challenges that we have as a community. So I engage, I invite, I welcome input. As I stated last year when I presented a budget saying that it was a very fragile budget, it was then and it is now. We closed the gap of the projected $12 million deficit. We have found a way to close the gap, but definitely we need a way to continue to bridge the gap of our unfunded liabilities inside the city of Flint. And I'm sure we will be a lighthouse of hope for the rest of the state of Michigan and other communities that face these very same issues when you have legacy costs, pension costs, retiree healthcare costs. So with that said, I look forward to more dialogue later. The budget is now being forwarded, and Madam President, I release back to you and the City Council. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful evening.